What's up, everybody? Pittsburgh, where you at? Pittsburgh, I'm coming at you real soon. April 4th, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the first official preview show of Anti-Fascist Pasta Night, and I can't wait to see you, Pittsburgh. April 18th, that show is virtual. If I'm not coming to a city near you, tune in on Zoom on April 18th. That show's at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. You can get information on my website, rompacone.com. May 16th, Los Angeles, California, and June 5th, New York City. Those are all Anti-Fascist Pasta Night stand-up preview shows because I'm taking Anti-Fascist Pasta Night to Edinburgh, Scotland in August. Tickets and all information at rompacone.com. See you soon. Episode 133. Craig Pasta Jardula. Craig Pasta Jardula is a journalist and YouTuber. Also, we're friends. At one point, we were roommates. Pasta and I were both part of the Bernie movement. When that fractured, we went different ways. I've been curious about that fracturing, so I decided Pasta was somebody I needed to ask about it. These days, we see things differently. We're not aligned on issues such as COVID, Kyle Rittenhouse, and certain social issues. We talk about it and its impact on the splintering of a movement that once, at least in my opinion, had potential and hopefully will again. Please welcome to the show, Craig Pasta Jardula. Craig Pasta Jardula. Good to see you, buddy.
Great to see you, Ron, man. I'm getting a little giddy. Remember the old school times, hanging on out. Like, what do you want on your Rocco's pizza? How many wings? What flavor? Let's do this. It's like the food, fun the fun. Our rendition of the seven fishes. Come on, Ron.
Yes. Oh man. Yeah, those were some special times. And even off mic, we already have a story to flesh out together. We're gonna work up to that. We gotta start, I start at the beginning with these things. So I'm gonna learn at least a couple things about you I don't know. So were you born in Florida or Brooklyn? Let's start there.
Long Island.
Okay. All right. So
Amityville, Long Island. Yeah, I moved to South Florida in 1979. I was like a couple months before my 7th birthday, and I moved to Boca Raton, Florida, on the outskirts of Boca Raton. There's only like 2 or 3 middle class places in Boca Raton, middle to lower class, and I lived in one of them. So yes.
So what brought your family from New York to Florida? Like, I knew it happened, but I don't know why.
My father was a chef. Jobs, mainly weather, opportunity. You know what I'm saying? They hated the weather too, and what really stinks is that we had this amazing house in Amityville, which was like 2 blocks away from the real Amityville horror house. And they sold that son of a bee. And then a couple years later, they had this huge boom in New York. And then it was like evaluated like 3 times the price. So that stunk. But you know what? Hey, we moved to South Florida when I was 7 years old. So I pretty much grew up in South Florida, spending a lot of summers in New York, including going back my teen years to work in the family pizzerias. So Florida, but South Florida, which is known as another borough of New York.
Yeah. And so, wait, what family members had the pizza spots in New York then? How did that anatomy work?
It was on my father's side, his sister's son-in-law had Joe's Pizzeria on Flatbush Avenue and Kings Highway. In Flatbush, Brooklyn. And from the ages of 14 to 18, every summer I worked at that pizzeria. Being the youngest cousin, I was the dough boy, and I had to make the dough every single morning, like 4 batches for a busy Brooklyn pizzeria. And it was like the Mr. Miyagi way of strengthening my hands because after 4 batches of dough at 14, 15 years old, that's rough.
Man, so I've been lucky enough to experience a lot of your culinary flexes, which are excellent. But I've noticed, like, did that sort of turn you off to making pizza? Because I've never experienced pasta going on making pizza. Yeah. I don't know if it's just
you've experienced pasta's pasta, but not pizza.
Yes, right.
And that's funny because in the pizzerias, even though I made the dough, I wasn't a pizza maker. I would make the dough, and then I'd go on the line, and sometimes my father was there. My father ran the kitchen. He was a chef, But a pizza maker in our family, you know, in most Italian American families, that's something separate than a chef or a cook. They
Right.
specifically make pizzas, and I never really made a lot of pizzas to this day. I would just make everything, the sauce. I would, you know, grind the cheese. I would make the dough, that sort of thing. So that's why you probably didn't experience my pizza. But I did work at a pizzeria when we met, and I brought you home a lot of pizza.
Oh, yes, you did. Oh, yeah. And that was, oh, yeah, those days were, yeah. Sometimes I look back at pictures from like that span of years. And whenever I'm like, I'm a little pudgier in this photo, I wonder. And I'm like, oh, pasta was around all the time. That's what it was.
My fault. Everybody blames
No,
me.
it's okay. It's okay. Because I'm also very, very happy looking in all those photos too, man. That was a fun time. But
Yes, it was.
but let's get back to you. Let's unpack growing up here. So what were some of your interests like growing up? Like what were you kind of into throughout high school and stuff like that?
Well, I was an athlete, played a lot of baseball. That was probably my best sport. I didn't play too much football because when I was 14 years old, there's a kid. It was the Boca Jets, actually, too. It's kind of funny because I was a Jet fan. And I was the 80 pounds Boca Jets when I was young. And when I was on the field, there was a kid who actually got crippled on the field, got hit. And my mother walked me off the field when I was very, very young. And I played flag football for the rest of my, and that stunk because I really didn't even play that much high school football. I concentrated more on drama when I got to high school. So I played a lot of sports. I was in drama in high school, went all the way up to drama 4. My senior year, won the drama 4 award, that kind of thing. Competed in thespians. You know, I've done so many plays. I must have done about 30 plays, 30 to 40 plays my whole life. You know, I've done The Wizard of Oz, Grease. I was always Sonny Lattieri in Grease, the guy who didn't have his own song. And he was the most Italian guy. I did like Grease 3 times. I was always Sonny Lattieri. So I was into that too. But I also played highlight when I was 16 years old. And I tried to play semi-professional when I was 18. Didn't quite make it. But yeah, I had an interesting time. Sports, acting, fun, that kind of thing. So yeah, that was my things growing up. And,
Did you do musical theater? Like, were you a singer too? Or were you more just like straight up theater plays?
More plays, but you know, in high school they're always doing like, you know, musical theater stuff. I did Guys and Dolls, and once again in Guys and Dolls, and I won the award in my high school, you know, for the best supporting actor. I played Big Julie from Chicago. Didn't have a song, right? You know what I'm saying? Scarecrow, you know, in The Wizard of Oz. Yeah, if it's I Only Had a Brain or whatever. No, I was the Tin Man. If I Only Had a Heart, you know, I did that one time. So I did do a lot of musical theater, but I was always backup. I could sing Far, Far Away good, but that's about it. You know, I was mostly into acting, and I did a lot of one-act stuff, which I really enjoyed doing too as well.
Yeah, see, so I've had this conversation some recently with guests on this show because, you know, I did theater for the first time since high school last year. You know, when we did the Hollywood Fringe with the play I wrote, Termination Fee. Which I hope you'll watch the film version, Pasta, although you haven't watched my movie that's out now. So I don't know when you'll get around to this next one. That's not out yet.
We're going to do one at a time, but we're going to get it done. We're going to get it done tonight. That's
all right.
I got steak tartare and your movie. So
brilliant.
That's
all right.
What's going on.
So, but when I did it in high school, like I really loved reconnecting with it all these years later at the Hollywood Fringe Festival. And I kind of realized, like, when I was in high school, I kind of thought that doing theater, quote unquote, just meant, you know, you loved show tunes and stuff like that, like musical theater. Like, I didn't realize there were like all these other subsets, like avant-garde theater and more just like dialogue driven theater. And, you know, like even like there was a healthy anti-capitalist theater scene in the United States at one point in time. I just wasn't hip to any of that as a high school kid. So I just thought, well, theater was fun in high school, but I'm not meant to pursue it anymore. And I was wrong. Like, I just didn't realize what was available, you know?
Why would you think that, though? And I know this is you interviewing me, but from a guy who's like on the stage doing stand-up all the time, why wouldn't you think that you'd be hip to it? It seems like a natural transition.
Absolutely. Well, so first of all, I didn't get into stand-up until like college, or after college, technically. So for the theater thing, it was like, you know, I graduated high school, was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was interested in theater. Like, I enjoyed it. You know, I thought about studying it formally, but I kind of came to this conclusion. Well, I'm not the type of guy who can like recite West Side Story on the snap of a finger. I'm not the type of guy that can, that's just not me. I don't dislike musicals. I enjoyed being in them, but I didn't really want to pursue it. And I didn't realize there was this whole element to theater. Like I just didn't know that. Like that was like sheltered from me. And so I never really pursued it. But if I knew that like playwriting was an option, I probably would have like gone down that path, because I did, but I didn't do it in like the collegian sense.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But you're making up for it now, right? And look, I like to get up on stage, do some stand up. Really, to tell you,
you're doing stand up now.
I've been kind of dibbling and dabbling. I just haven't been able to find the time to write enough of the material, and I've been going off to Minnesota, and I'm getting ready to go to Peru and stuff. So I'm not taking it serious, but I want to do anything that can help me improve my public speaking. And from working with so many comedians, and I do believe it's kind of like maybe it's kind of hindered my growth in this field, in the political field, in the journalist field, because there is such a connection between comedy and politics nowadays. And you guys have that clan. You're very tight. You know what I'm saying? It's like you understand what another comedian, what it's like to go through that grind. I mean, I live with you. So I know the fact that at one point in his life, Ron Pacone lived in his car just to do what he had to do. So, I see those bonds. I see those bonds when Brett Ernst and Sam Tripoli talk, because, when they were open micers, they were doing it together.
Oh, yeah.
So I believe, number one, I want to be part of the clan. I want to be part of the cool club. But more importantly, I want to do anything that's going to help me improve my public speaking. And I realized that at Rage Against the War Machine when I was up there in front of 7,000 people, and, you got Dennis Kucinich and Ron Paul standing behind me. And, I got some great love when I came off the stage. Actually, Scott Horton, the Libertarian, was the first one there to congratulate me as I was coming off. And I was just like, I want to get better at this. I want to communicate better. And I think stand-up comedians are just amazing communicators.
Yeah, I mean, most of us are, I think.
That's what I learned from living with you. I thought you were great,
Aw, well, that's kind of you to say, man. But and for what it's worth, dude, you've been shooting pretty fast in the journalist space. I mean, when you think about it, I mean, I feel like it was only like yesterday you were just sort of, hiring somebody with a camera while you like had a little monologue and you were like sitting at a desk and stuff. And, look at you now.
Well, thank you. But still a long way to go. It's really hard to exist in this space. They've still demonetized on YouTube and everything. And, because of you and Graham, I'm doing this. I live with you guys. I didn't plan on really, doing this. I moved to Pasadena with you because it was right around the corner from my new location. Like I was literally getting transferred out there, and I was living all the way out in the sticks past Woodland Hills, and we had just met, and I responded on Facebook.
Yeah.
I did it, and you encouraged me, you know what I'm saying? And here I am today because of you. So thank you. I mean, it's always great. I know we haven't done any shows in a while or really collaborated, but make no mistake of it, because of you and Graham Elwood, I am here today, and I can't thank you enough for that. And I do want to reiterate that I do think you're a great communicator. You suck on some issues, but you're a good communicator.
Back at you, buddy.
Bam! Comedy's coming. Here we go.
Back at you. But all right. So
thank you. Well, you did warn me. You warned me about Tools a long time ago. Like when I said I like Tim Cass, you're like, you really like that fucking guy? And I'm like, now I think about it, I'm like, I don't like that guy at all. I wish I would have listened to Ron when he questioned me. So you were right about a few things.
Well, I think, dude, honestly, if we're being real, we all get some things right. We all get some things wrong. I mean, I don't have a perfect batting average. Neither do you. Nobody does. And the people who pretend otherwise, either they're not trying, they're just repeating ideas that someone else fed to them, or they're liars. Yeah. Or they're liars. Because, let's be honest, and I don't want to, we're still getting your story here, buddy. That's the purpose of this podcast. We're not going to get too far off. But, but I think that you and I both know, even though we're not totally aligned on every issue, we do both understand the anatomy of this space. And we understand that, when you have to say the words, I'm wrong, it's bad for clicks. Yeah. But it's the fucking truth. And if you're really doing the due diligence and trying your best, you're going to say the words, I'm wrong, throughout your entire fucking career. Now, if you're saying it every day, then you got to maybe, reassess some things. but you're going to say it. And if you can't say that, well, that's a problem. But unfortunately, you're disincentivized to say it, which is also a problem. But
well, you know what? I think that table's going to flip. That card's going to turn, or whatever you want to say, whatever the analogy is, because I think a lot of people are starting to appreciate those who can say, "Hey, man, I made a mistake. And now that I got new information, I can now say that I was wrong about that, and this is." How I feel now, especially in a time where you see a person like the president of the United States who constantly, and every single sentence, whatever he's talking about, tries to find a way to brag about himself, even in the worst situations. You know what I'm saying? And I think people are fed up, and they've kind of caught on to that. I mean, he's definitely kind of singing to a very low-informed crowd, and they're listening. But that's the trait, that's the tactic, and I think he learned that from the WWE wrestling. So I think more genuine people. He did. I mean, his training for the president of the United States was the WWE. I mean, it really is, and unfortunately,
that's funny right there. That's funny right there. That's a joke right there. You're saying you want to do stand up? Yeah. That's a joke right there. Right there. I'm not gonna. I mean, I could just straight up write the setup and punch for you, but you have a joke right there about the president training WWE.
Yeah.
Right there.
Can I ask you a question?
Well, you know what, man? You're kind of wearing out your quota here. It's my no, just
I know it is, but since you told me about writing a joke, though, I mean, I wish I was like around now today to see the thought process. I live with you, right? And I helped volunteer for you at times for your show. I just want to be a part of it. But like I've been in a space with you before where like we're talking and all of a sudden you get a text and you just stop and you go into the room and you have to go to work. Like, and I was around for a lot of that. And I would always kind of say, I wonder what's on his mind, the thought process, how it works. As a comedian, when you're writing political jokes, because this is a problem I have. Like, I would assume when you go into this, you want people on your side. You want the audience on your side when you're on that stage. You want them to laugh at you. But when you do politics, sometimes it feels like you can alienate one side of the room while still pandering to the other. How do you deal with that quagmire as a comedian? Because that's my problem. I was writing a joke, and I was like, I don't want to tell that joke. I'm in Boca Raton. There's a lot of Jewish people out there. So if I make a joke about Zionists, Jewish people are going to be offended, and I might lose the room. You know what I'm saying? So how do you deal with that quagmire? Because that's the most difficult thing I'm trying to face right now.
Well, all right. So it depends on, like, the context of your question. If you're asking me like, how do you like if you're just going to open mic night or something like that, or you're just doing stand up in general with people who may or may not know who you are, the real simple answer to that question is just trust. You know, who do you like to talk politics with? People that you trust, people that you like. Even if you don't agree with them on everything. Pasta, you and I don't agree on everything, but I'll talk to you any day of the week because we're friends and I like you. And I hope that's mutual. But so same thing goes on stage. Once they trust you, well, then they'll kind of let you take them on a ride. If they don't trust you, they're not going to let you take them anywhere. Yeah. But once they trust you, so, the most simple answer to that is like, maybe don't open with the like heaviest hitting shit. Work your way into it. Gotcha. I mean, even to this day,
build trust.
Build trust and then take them there. Then take them there. I still to this day don't open with like a hard hitting political joke. I kind of like ease in with some exceptions. I mean, sometimes if it's like my friend's show or something like that, that's a little different. But like still to this day, I'm not going to like open with something super heavy. I'm going to kind of win their trust first and then get them to go there with me. As far as us living together, and I mean, a lot of times what you saw, my guess is you saw Jimmy sent me something that he wanted to talk about, and he sent me some source material and he sent me some ideas, and then I wrote jokes for it. And that was a really beautiful era and a really beautiful time because that show was growing faster than any of us knew, and we didn't know how the F to deal with it in like a good way. It was like a beautiful roller coaster. We were all like, when's this thing stop? And are we supposed to wear a seatbelt? What the fuck? And it was in some ways anarchy, but in the best way possible. I mean, it wasn't always great. Like there were some stresses that came along with that. But so
Telling me.
sure, and so we just kind of did what we did, and wrote what we wrote, and put it out there the way we wanted to put it out there, and people started finding it and connecting with it. And that was like, that era from like 2017 through about like 2019. I mean, that was just fucking wild, dude. I mean, it was an amazing time. Yeah. So that was what you were seeing. And, if you were really curious, you always could have knocked on the door and asked me. But,
No, to tell you the truth, I did what I normally did. Get the food ready so when you come out, you can eat, you can talk. Dude, I
can't complain.
I was never offended. You know what I'm saying? That's the thing, living with you and being your friend and even going to your wedding. It's like we've had very few disagreements, like very, very few. Like we really got along good. And I know the roommates before me probably weren't we didn't have the community.
We weren't really close. Yeah.
You told me. It was no community. We turned that place into a community spot, 7 Fishes, activists, that sort of thing. And the thing that was always awesome is the fact that you're a real smart guy, academic-wise. You are really smart, you know what I'm saying? And the comedy and that whole aspect, and I always like the New York kind of mentality of kind of like, don't have soft skin. Ron can bust your balls too. He's a redheaded Mideastern, Western, Italian guy, and he'll bust your balls. It was a lot of fun living together, man. I remember that stuff. Yeah,
it was. No, it totally was.
A lot of fun. Except when you made fun of me too much. There were times you went over the line. All
right, we're going to get to that. We're getting closer to that. All right. Well, so what made you go to L.A.?
Acting.
Okay. It was the acting.
Yeah, I was in acting classes, Joe Police for many years. I studied theory, you know what I'm saying? Where it'd be Meisner or Strasberg, all that. But it was acting that made me go out there. And, I would just work in the restaurants as I was going to auditions and trying to get commercials or small spots. And I do some plays too as well. So, yeah, it was acting that made me go out there.
Are you auditioning at all in Florida?
Oh, I haven't auditioned in a long time. I stopped auditioning when I went to work Rocco's, before Rocco's, when I went to work full-time 60 hours a week in the restaurant business. There was no time. I would work 60 hours a week in those places. I'd get paid a lot of money, and it was great. When you met me, I was doing training coordinator and corporate managing. I was managing managers. So both those jobs, I worked at Wakano before Rocco's. And if you don't know Wakano, guys, it's the Thai, Asian style, Mongolian, Pan-Asian place that has a fresh sushi bar.
I like that.
It's a really cool concept.
That's a cool spot. Yeah.
Yeah. I worked there as a training coordinator. I worked at Rocco's. So I had some really good jobs and we had a lot of really good food. But there was no time for auditioning anymore or going to classes. And it was kind of cool to not have to worry and stress out about bills, at least, because LA does that to you. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I was waiting tables and auditioning, it was always month to month coming down to the wire finances. So,
yeah. Well, now the industry is completely suiciding itself. So that's
Not AI, baby.
You should see what's left of it now. It's quite a sight.
Thank you.
Yeah, right. But all right. So then, what made you? And I guess we've kind of touched upon this naturally. But what made you kind of want to dive into the YouTube political space?
Obviously I had a lot of good people around me, got a lot of inspiration. I'm still very thankful that I bought the tickets in the front row to that Jimmy Dore show. And I was actually bringing an employee who was a freshman in college that was trying to get into politics. And I said, all right, this is the guy we're going to go see, watch a couple shows. And I remember I was sitting down, I was getting ready to order a drink. She goes, oh, there's Ron. And you turned over and looked. I'm like, we're like, Ron. And you came right on over, shook hands. I introduced myself. We talked after. So I was surrounded by the right people, right? I wasn't, that's when we met, and I lived with you less than a month later.
I mean, that's so wild.
It was wild.
Yeah.
But, also the fact that when I was always in the activist field, so I was hanging around the Bernie Sanders diners and those people and getting into the streets with nurses, teachers, that sort of thing. So there was a form of activism was there. But when I was with those groups, we understood that all the grassroots candidates, remember when we had that idea that we were going to take over the Democratic Party from the inside? Mm-hmm. Well, there was no media that would touch the grassroots candidates and whatnot, all the people we were supporting, all the real progressives. So with Fiorella there, we're like, why don't we start a channel where we can interview these people? And we also thought that, me and Fiorello became close friends because we were also foreign policy wanks, right? We love foreign policy. So the Bernie Sanders group knew shit about foreign policy. So what if we can interview these candidates and then educate the group on foreign policy? Why don't we do that? And then, bam, it just went from there. But, like I said, you and Graham going, Pasta, you should do this, right? When you have Graham Elwood and Ron Placo, and that was the Jimmy Dore show. It was just starting to grow, right? And they're encouraging you to do this. They like Fiorella. I mean, wow, my life has changed. My friends have changed for the better. The money sucks, but it does suck, and it's still demonetized on YouTube. But man, do I love my lifestyle, and I'm so thankful and grateful I went to that show that night.
Yeah, that's wild, man. I mean, that was that was 2017, right? It had to have been, or was it 2018? It was one of those.
2016.
It was post the election. It was
post election.
Yeah, it had to have been.
It might have been into 2017, right around there, but it was
right around then. Because at first, the panel didn't have cameras on it. So, like, if you knew what I looked like, it had to have been, I think, 2017 at that point. Because, like, the panels didn't have cameras.
Yeah.
So no one knew what I looked like for, like, the first couple of months or whatever. But, yeah. So, it was early. I remember that. And well, let me ask you this, because I ask everybody this question, no matter what, no matter where they're at now. And I guess I'm really interested to ask you this, because you've kind of, since the Bernie movement, you've pivoted in a direction that, some of which differs from my own. And, as somebody who, has been a leftist since the Iraq war jolted me awake in 2004. And then in 2016 felt like, oh, we're not as alone as we thought we were. And then seeing this fracturing take place over the course of like 8 or I guess going on 10 years now, I'm kind of wondering how we lost so many people, be it to, MAGA, or be it to, some other type of thinking, or like a more libertarian direction, whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, like, what is your take on that?
Yeah, well, it's 1,000% the Democratic Party, right? And it's and COINTELPRO, which is an old CIA, FBI, I think it's FBI type of document, which kind of explains that they want to co-opt people in these movements. And I think there was purposely planted co-option, rhetoric about certain things. I mean, it's funny because we say we don't agree on certain things. Well, we really never hashed out the things we disagree on, right? But it is kind of weird. And I just think that the Democratic Party is the synthetic left movement of the United States. It's not a real leftist movement. I think a lot of us, I consider myself a common sense leftist, an anti-imperialist leftist. The Democratic Party is a pro-war party, but it's also pandered to this one faction, I think, in the culture war department, and that's what's caused a lot of us to split. Because I think a lot of people, listen, I do a show once a week, Wednesdays on WBAI New York. It's called Drive Time. It's a call-in show. And the last caller I had on Wednesday was upset with me because I talk about getting out of the two-party duopoly. It's a two-party illusion. They're supported by the same people. They're paid off by the same people. It's a pro-war party. But this gentleman, who considers himself a leftist, a Democrat, he called in and he says he thinks I was wrong for not realizing that if Kamala Harris was the president, things would be better. That Donald Trump, in other words, the Democratic Party is the lesser of two evils, no matter what. And I think that's where the split is. And some of the people we know, some of the people we collaborate with, you know what I'm saying? I think the culture war issues come into play. Social issues. And I think that's what can be really divisive because those things are awful. I try to steer myself completely out of those things and concentrate on economics and anti-imperialism and civil liberties and the old school liberal ways. And that can piss some people off. I mean, the criticism I've gotten from people from the PSL or those other types of group is that insensitive towards the LGBTQI community, which, I don't even remember being insensitive. I remember verbally saying, I'm not going to take a position on this. You know what I'm saying? When people have asked me, do you think there's such thing as a trans kid? I'm like, I don't want to get into that. I don't know. I'm glad I don't have kids. I'm not going to think about that. And it's not on the priority list as far as I'm concerned. Yes, we should treat everybody with love and respect, but
why can't that just be your position then?
What's that?
Why can't it just be like, well, I think we should treat everyone with love and respect?
That is my position. But when you're telling me that
Isn't that taking a position?
It is, but it's not answering the question.
Okay.
The question was, is there such thing as a trans kid? I don't want to answer that question, man. I don't know. I don't have children, and I don't, you know what I'm saying? But if I were to say no, that a child's brain isn't completely developed until they're how old? You know what I'm saying? And I think they should be 18 until they make that decision. I can get belittled by a group of people. I mean, a lot of the people in the pro-Gaza, pro-Palestinian movement would say, I remember when they went after the Jimmy Kimmel show, they were outside. They were like, protect trans and Palestinian rights. I don't know why they're making those two comparisons, because I think it's going to push people away. And valuable allies that we can take over are now going to be like, I'm not dealing with that. I'm not going down that road. And I think the Democratic Party has pushed that kind of narrative so that we would be divided.
Well, so I think the Democratic Party hijacks those issues in a dishonest way. And I think that's the problem. But I do think there's also a fundamental problem that can't be ignored when you see a group of people being so viciously targeted, which is the transgender community. I don't think I understand that not everybody fully understands it or has a full, analysis of it. I don't think that's totally unreasonable. I don't think I fully understand it. And that's part of my position. I'm like, look, I can't imagine what it is like to be that, because I am not that way. So I just want to try to be an empathetic person. I want to try to learn as much as I can. And the way I learn as much as I can is I ask transgender people and they teach me. And that helps me, form a take on it. But also, like, I will never, I can never tolerate for the targeting of a group of people. And I think a lot of that is happening in a very real way. And that can't be ignored because, I mean, hey, man, the old poem tells us first they came for, and I did not speak out. And look, there's a lot of connections, especially to barbaric fascism and the most marginalized people being targeted first, which, by the way, throughout history has always been transgender people. So, it's like I can't deny that part of it, but I would never dismiss somebody, that's coming at it with an open heart and an open mind and a place of inclusivity, even if maybe like their, like buzzwords are off or whatever else. I mean, I try to be that guy.
Yeah, and that's a great attitude to have, and you kind of nailed on a few things that unfortunately is not happening in that movement, right? So if somebody would have the opinion of like, so my mindset is more of like a libertarian. I believe that, it's up to the parents of the children to decide. I want less government in the household, right? I want as much freedom in the household. I want parents making that decision. But in California, itself, it's been like this battle where like, no, if the child says that, he's a transgender, that the parents have to recognize that. And if they don't recognize that, the state can step in. And they've kind of danced with certain laws around that, whatnot. If somebody were to have the position I have, we might be on the chopping board to get canceled. And that's the problem as a whole. If somebody has an opinion on the left about that social or that cultural war issue, they can get ostracized and they can get canceled. That's the problem. Right.
Yeah,
I still have a leftist mentality.
Sure.
That's where the problem is. And a lot of that is driving the bus, especially from the LGBTQI community. You know what I'm saying? It's not about so much about the fact that, these people have a different opinion. It's that they get canceled for having that opinion. And that's not a way you build allies. Right. For me, it's the economy, stupid. It always goes back to economics 9 times out of 10, because everybody needs a place to live. Everybody needs food to eat, no matter what religion you are, how you identify yourself at. You know what I'm saying? I just want to go to a situation and concentrate where we're looking at economics more than anything.
No, I understand that, and I definitely take that point of view. What you're saying though about like, oh, chopping block cancel, I mean, that happens from every angle though. That happens from every angle. And it's like, if you're going to talk about government intervention, well, that also, happens from every angle. And that includes, when they're trying to give bureaucrats control over the internet to make life a little bit harder for LGBTQ youth. And that includes when you speak out about those issues and you get called a quote groomer or something like that, which is absolutely disgusting and repulsive. Yep. So, I mean, the type of issues you're bringing up, it happens from all angles. Like it's not a one-sided thing. And we all receive that because of the spaces that we occupy. Yeah. Because we speak publicly about it, basically, which you're going to go to those open mic nights and
I might, I still don't know. But what about another issue? The other issue we talk about, race. And I think this is where we might have had some differences. I think on the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, we thought a little bit differently about things.
Yeah, definitely.
But race is one of those things that is kind of really marginalized and used for divisive rhetoric and stuff. And to me, our empire is the real racism, right? Going and bombing brown people all around. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
That's real racism. And there's also a class element to that, right? And a lot of those people in the Democratic Party would be okay with Russia getting bombed, Russians getting bombed in the Donbass because they thought Putin was awful. Putin hates gays, whatever. And they would almost justify that stuff. They would go and point the finger at Russia and not recognize that it's the United States who was using Ukraine as a proxy by funding Nazis to kill people in the Donbass, right? And I think sometimes, those things are just kind of like pushed off to the side. But when you talk about our empire, that's what real racism is. Right?
I agree.
Somalia, and in that Democratic Party, there's so many people who just don't know anything about empire, about foreign policy, and I think that's where we're missing, the plot.
I hear you, and I agree with that statement as far as where I think I have some particulars. Is I would say that that is an example of the Democratic Party hijacking race for dishonest purposes. The same way, I mean, in the most basic element. Oh, well, you don't like what Kamala Harris has to say. Well, you must be a racist. Yeah, come on, really, come on. Yeah. But then I think the problem is you see this overcorrection because there's so many people that are so sick of that nonsense. And yes, it is nonsense. We both know this. But then they go the other way and they're like, well, systemic racism doesn't exist. Like, oh, come on. Yes, it does. Come on. Let's yes, there is serious problems of racism in policing, especially with what's going on with ICE right now. Like it's a huge freaking issue. And I think some people are, so tired of, the hijacking that they then overcorrect way too far the other way. And it's like walking that line is not easy because I think we're a year or two away from nuance being illegal. So
yeah, well, that's the thing. It's all about recognizing the nuance, right? I'm not talking about like a person like me. I should have never been canceled from a lot of people that I was canceled from because of my stance on COVID-19. Another thing, like I pretty much thrown off the stage. And I remember it was a big break for me. I get to introduce you. I get to introduce Jimmy Dore. Jackson Hinkle was there. Fee was there. Maria Estrada was there. And I'm going to introduce you guys. And 2 days before the rally, I'm thrown off the stage because of my stance on COVID, right? Mm-hmm. On the vaccine.
Another thing we don't agree on, but
we don't agree on you, but you would have never thrown me off the stage.
No. And again,
I can still stand for Medicare for all and say, I can still say healthcare is a human right and say, no, I'm against the shot. I can do that. Right. But the Democratic Party and their lackeys and all the movement within California, they're like, no, you're anti-science. You're a Republican. Get off the stage. And I was like, I don't understand this. We used to march in the street against the pharmaceutical lobbyists. We knew they were the worst entity on the planet Earth. I mean, they're awful. I mean, the military-industrial complex and all these other, APAC and everything. I mean, but they're awful what Big Pharma has done. In Africa, they used, humans as lab rats and killed people all the time. They don't care. We know how awful they are. Why are we going to trust them right away? And why are you going to cancel me simply because I say I don't agree with mandating that shot? I don't want to take that shot.
Well, and again, that goes both ways, because the other side of it, too, is like, I got canceled in a ton of places, too, solely because I stand by, and I still stand by this position, that COVID is a very dangerous virus. We should not be getting a virus multiple times a year. And some common sense precautionary measures are a good thing. You weren't allowed to say that. You weren't allowed to say that. You weren't allowed to have a nuanced position. And when these shots were being oversold, we all cringed. Everybody who bothered reading the sheet of paper about the shots cringed at that. Like, oh, you won't get COVID if you get this shot. That was never the case. That was never true. That was just, but where I thought the villain was capitalism. They just wanted you back at work. That's what they wanted. So all of a sudden, oh yeah, 5 days, you'll be fine. The shot, you'll be fine. Just open a window, you'll be fine. It was all bullshit because they wanted the capitalist machine to continue. So that's where I think the true enemy is. And I think, again, because of that, we have seen a gross overcorrection where now eugenics has been normalized in our society. And everything I'm describing right now has little to do with, like, if somebody reads about the COVID shot, decides they don't want to get one, okay, that's your choice. That's fine. It doesn't prevent transmission. You can read all the other things. You can read the statistics and make your own decision. That's what I did, and that's fine. But, when we have this overcorrection where public health becomes eugenics, that's a freaking problem. And I think this society has really been duped. And it's freaking disturbing. And conversations like these did not happen throughout 2020 till about now. And they're happening, in obscure independent places like this. Yeah. So it's a problem, man. And unfortunately, we're not going to fix it all. But
I think we do have to realize, too, as well, as we're talking about this particular situation. Now we're on the overcorrection side, right, where the left is not in power. Donald Trump's in power. They got a complete Republican Congress, whatnot. And we see what's going on. The left
has never been in power, just for the record. The real left has been losing for 100 years in the United States.
I call it the synthetic left Democrats. But when we're talking about COVID in particular, the Democrats set the tone. They set the narratives. They set the laws. They set the rules. They made the mandates. So when you had an overcorrection on the right-hand side, that might be true. But at the end of the day, a lot of those people, and it was kind of weird for me.
But a lot of the stuff that I described happened with the Democrats. It was Joe Biden that did that. It was Joe Biden that said, oh, yeah, just get the shot. You'll be fine. It was Joe Biden that said 5 days, you'll be fine. So I think they both failed miserably. And if you just uttered the word mandate, you were automatically panned as having a certain point of view. People came at me. They're just like, well, you wanted blah, 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 blah. I'm like, actually, no. The mandates that I supported, mandate just means law. The mandates that I supported, we never frickin' tried. I supported air filtration requirements. You know how much that would have diluted the spread of this virus if we had top-bottom air filtration requirements in warehouses, on like buses, schools, everywhere. That would, first of all, that would have inconvenienced people's lives. Not at all, unless you're like, oh, you're inconvenienced me by having me breathe less shitty air. And it would have been so effective. I favored that mandate, but the United States didn't do that. Why? Because the powerful would have had to pay some money. That's why. I favor.
There are thousands of people who still have not gotten their job back in New York because they were mandated to take a shot and they didn't take a shot. So, of course, you're going to get overcorrection from the right-hand side. I hate to be tribal about this, but you're going to get that correction when there were actual people losing their jobs because they refused to get a shot. So that's why you're going to have that overspill. And to be honest with you, we never could have the good discussions. The person who threw me off the stage, when I started questioning her about certain things, about treatment and talking about ivermectin and talking about vitamin D and all those things, she wanted to get off the phone. She didn't even want to have a conversation. The fact is, I didn't want to take a shot. I didn't do it. She's got to protect the people around you. I can't be part of the event. You know what I'm saying? And we saw a lot of stuff like that going on. So, of course, there's going to be an overcorrection from one side when one other side is pretty much dominant in what's going on because, they had the microphone. It
does go both ways, man. You see this tribalism go both ways. Yeah. I think that masking in a crowded indoor space is a good idea when we have this virus that is incredibly airborne and incredibly dangerous. I had to leave a live show once because some guy kept yelling really loud about how he wanted to shoot me because I was wearing a mask.
Yeah.
So the tribalism goes both ways and always. And, I've been threatened physically multiple times. I've been, assigned views that I don't even really have unless you want to dismiss any nuance from the conversation. So yeah, man, it happens.
And I agree. But the thing is that what was happening was the people on the left, a lot of the progressive, the activists we knew, people part of the Democratic Party, they said I'm not an ally because I took that stance on that particular issue. You know what I'm saying? And that was my issue. It's because, wait a second, dude, we're still pro-peace. We're anti-imperialist, right? I'm pro-immigration as can be, as AF, right? Like, you can't argue with me about...
You're pro-immigration AF?
As fuck. You know what I'm saying?
No, I know what that means. It was just funny the way you said it.
Well, you're the one who used to say that was your line. I'm used your line there because you used to say that all the time. I don't know if you still say it, but you used to say AF, so I just did it.
I do still say it, but I think we're both dating ourselves when we say it.
There's so many things that I would align with, and to this day, look, I think there's a lot of things I'm worried about the Democrats swinging back around. Handsome Newsom, you're in that state. You know what he's all about, all the failures he's had. He's one of the elites, close to Tom Pritzker. He wasn't mentioned in the Epstein files. Yeah, but Tom Pritzker was, and he pretty much bankrolled, Gavin Newsom's career. And we just know what Gavin Newsom's all about, and the failure in California, the homelessness number growing and them taking advantage of it. But regardless, I'm worried about them coming back. But to say that I wasn't an ally when I still call myself a leftist, I still say to this day, if I have a conversation with a conservative or somebody from the Republican Party, I identify as a leftist to this day. So I think it was a shame that I was told, not so much by leadership, but actual activists on the ground, that I'm not an ally because I'm anti COVID shot. So that sucks. And I know we should know it's the periphery. I'm talking about, I think a lot of us are on the periphery, and that's the whole thing that we need to identify nowadays. Because what is it? 24% of the people are Democrat, 26% are now Republican, and it flipped. So half the country is hanging out on the periphery anyways. So
half the country doesn't even vote too. I mean, half the country is just completely disenfranchised because of, the corporate capture of government, and so, no, I hear you. I mean, I can't speak to your individual experiences the same way you can't speak to mine, but what we're both getting at is, we both have taken some tribal shots or whatever. Where I'm still curious, and I think you kind of answered it, is just how did so many people deviate from, at least, a social democratic vision to something entirely different, because I mean, at least it was heading towards a social, which my personal politics are to the left of that. But I mean, hell, if we can catch up with the Scandinavian countries, I'll take it, but we're way further away from that. And we've lost a lot of people. We lost people to MAGA. We lost people to, more libertarian points of view. We've lost people to, whatever else. And I think there's a lot of factors at play, but I wish there was a way to fix it. And I don't know what it is.
Well, I think the first part of fixing it is realizing what the problem is, because we're talking about the tribalness, right? And it's no longer a socially democratic party anymore, social democrat, that kind of mentality, because the Democratic Party has made themselves a culture war party, right? You know what I'm saying? And
it's not it never was a social democratic party. I mean, it was far to the right of that. I mean, that was
go way back to before the Great Depression, right? And during those times, the left party.
I mean, the Republican Party was that way too. That if you want to go,
it was. But there were registered communists in the country. A lot of them in the 1900s. Right. So the possibility was there.
Yes.
And I'm not just saying
how do we get back to that? That's my question.
I'm not talking about but there was always a mentality, right? There was unions that were really strong that the Democratic Party was once stood in before Jimmy Carter, and the thing about it is that they found a way to go more to the stuff, the culture war, and take the fringe people because it's on both sides now. I think most people that are not either a Republican or a Democrat, and that's what you get when you have a system that says you have to pick one or the other. You're going to have people matriculate to that because that's the only choices they have. But I think a lot of us are just kind of hanging out on the periphery and going, yo, man, we want to talk about economics. Democrats aren't talking about that. They're talking about all these other issues. The Republicans, they're going to be the party of war. They always will get. I mean, this reminds me of George Bush's presidency, W's presidency, what we're seeing with Donald Trump here. The same thing, the same excuses, the same mentality. You're going to waste our money. So I think people see that, and that's why we've gotten away from the economics, because they also have found a way, Ron, to keep us pitted at each other's throats.
No, I agree.
And that's their best asset. That's their best play.
No, I agree with all that. Well, let's get back to you.
I always love to get back to me.
Huh?
I always love to get back to me. Okay.
Well, let's pivot to your jogging suit here.
Man.
And let's correct the record since we are civilly disagreeing on some key issues of the day. So yeah, I took you out to dinner, and you wore I actually thought it was a nice outfit, and but it was definitely, it was a two-piece. How do you describe it? You describe it. Go ahead.
Was a two-piece velour Puma jogging suit.
There you go. Two-piece velour Puma jogging suit. And you came out, and it just was, I was in like jeans and a t-shirt. So it was just a bit unexpected. You had like a necklace on, and I was just like, oh, dude, what's up? And you were like,
sneakers, yeah.
Yeah, and you were like, oh, this is what I'm wearing. And I'm like, all right. And I was like, Molly's for sure, our old roommate Molly, I was like, Molly's for sure going to make fun of you. And then as soon as I said that, she she walked into the room from outside or whatever. So she sees you and she goes, hey, nice jogging suit, and walks away. And of course I laughed. How do you not laugh at that timing? It was perfect. That's what I remember. I don't remember saying anything else.
Do you remember laughing when you said that? That's the point you left out. You're like, that's a nice suit. I think Molly's going to have something to say about it. And like literally 2 minutes later, she walks out. We were all going out to get something to eat, and she goes, hey, nice suit. And you just started laughing hysterically.
Yes, of course. Of course.
Yeah, I never wore that suit ever again in the house. At least not in the house, when, you know what I'm saying? That's it. And it was a time to wear it because it was a little chilly, and it was velour. So, but I really never wore it again, and not at least around you. But yeah, that is the truth. And even though you didn't have a direct hit, it was like a proxy hit.
It was a proxy hit.
It was a proxy hit. It was a successful proxy.
It was like I gave you the warning. Like I warned you the hit was coming. I was like, oh, she's gonna say something about this, and then she did. And it's like, well, that's
Yeah.
I mean, it was like sitcom-esque.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry I discouraged you. I think you should do the jogging suit. I think you should wear it tonight.
I got two more now. I got a white. I got a Puma white one, an orange one that's not velour. It's like a regular jogging outfit, so I can wear that one in the spring. And I got some orange velour Puma sneakers to go with that one. So I do have a couple other ones now. So it's not you didn't discourage me completely. I just whatever.
No, I all right, good. I'm glad. I would never want to I would never want to discourage that from anybody. Oh, look. This must be a sign, dude. Check it out. He's just started to do this recently. This is Livorno.
Livorno.
Yeah, he's going to be 1 in a couple weeks. Yeah.
So, do you remember the first time I came over? It's like I came over and we were out in the living room, and there wasn't much furniture in that place with your old roommates.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, Lucy comes out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey, what's going on? And like you were just watching, and it was like, you were like, you have my approval, Pasta, but we knew that I had to get Lucy's approval before you did. And Lucy liked me right away.
She loved you.
Yeah.
She loved you, and it's still hard for me to even talk about it, honestly.
I know.
Like this morning, as of recording this, I'm working on the credits for the next film that's in post-production right now, and I do want to include a little, like, hey, in memory, because even when we were shooting Termination Fee, like it was all the people that worked on Termination Fee also worked on Left at Wall. So like even like our DP Jessica was just like, it's not the same working on a project with you without Lucy running around. Like it's not the same. And so I wanted to put in a little thing with her for her in the credits. So I was going through like a bunch of photos, and I didn't keep it together. Like I I didn't keep it together.
Even though Lucy liked me in the beginning, it's still like I couldn't get completely close to her until no, it was several months after I lived there, and it was like the Christmas season, and you were away. And I remember I was kind of sitting on the couch, and I was like, I was feeling a little down about something. I guess it was the holidays, and I was out in LA and out with my family. And Lucy came on and kind of cuddled in my lap, and it was like she was like, "All right, we're cool, we're completely cool." And after that day, it was like another level of me and Lucy's friendship, and it was pretty kind of cool having Lucy as a pet.
I remember you telling me about that. Yeah, no, she was the best, and you were among her favorite humans, absolutely. So yeah, thank you for being that, and
no doubt,
it means a lot.
Thank you for bringing Lucy into my life. She was amazing. I loved her.
All right, so I do have to bring up one more contemporary thing, and this is part of the reason I was like, we got to have this episode now.
Yeah,
Tulsi Gabbard.
Yeah,
holy shit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, yeah. Do you? I mean, like
Bernie Sanders, Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, all what us Italians would call persona non grata, disgraziad.
All right,
awful.
So one of those people I never liked at all to begin with. RFK, I have no use for. I appreciated your segment because you asked him directly.
Yeah,
I mean, I think it was you. It was you, right?
It was me.
You literally, and I don't remember.
Before October 7th, it was after the Roger Waters tweet. I went up there to New Hampshire and I got him. It's funny because I had Dennis Kucinich on today, and Dennis Kucinich was in the room. And Dennis Kucinich, we didn't talk to him about it today, but he pretty much left the campaign because of RFK's ultra Zionist stance. But before October 7th, we didn't know at what degree it was. And I went to New Hampshire while he was kind of addressing the Senate there, telling them not to move their primary because he was still running as a Democrat. And I asked him that question on Israel and Palestine, and I was the first to get him. And after that tweet went wild. It had over 1 million views, and it was like, okay, they're starting to put him on record. So yes, it was me, and I was even supporting him then at that point. Like, he looked like a guy I was going to vote for. But, you know me, Ron, even with Tulsi, I asked Tulsi a tough question before when I was supporting her. I'll never back down. I just always appreciated Tulsi and RFK because I can get those questions. Can never get them with Bernie. Can get 2 feet in front of Bernie, but you can get them with those people. So I appreciated that.
No, I understand that. I remember watching your segment where you basically asked him, hey, do you have any empathy for Palestinian people? And he like couldn't say yes. I mean, it was sick. It was sick. And I mean, again, that guy, I consider that guy a eugenicist. He is a Zionist. He is a eugenicist. I have absolutely no use for him at all. And that's like part of the overcorrection I'm talking about, and again, if you want to make it about like a COVID shot, hey, read the literature, you read it, you decide not to get it. Okay. I read it. I decide to get it. Okay. What are they projecting? If I fall over dead next year, Pasta, you can have an I told you so moment. Tell you what, like, what is it? Like, we're all supposed to be dead in 5. I know not everybody believes that.
I'm taking it, by the way, too. You haven't really read Pfizer's own information on that shot. You haven't got caught up on that.
Well, I'm a Novavax guy. I mean, if we really want to take this deep dive,
that's
I'm
cool.
No,
that's. I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Again, it's that whole nuance thing. Yeah. But we're not allowed to do that.
I would have taken, if I had to take one, I would have taken the Cuban vaccine because it was an mRNA, right? I would have taken maybe Sputnik, but I'm glad I didn't have to do any of them. You know what I'm saying? But then again, I have my different beliefs, and
that's your choice. That's your belief. Totally. I mean, it's like
I have ivermectin here. Once again, that's my belief as well. And I was one of the first to do ivermectin. I did ivermectin. I talked about ivermectin before Pierre Corey talked about it. So but a lot of people didn't want to listen to me because my audience was traditionally from the left, and a lot of people were like, "No, Pasta, sorry, we're not paying attention to you on this one." So
I was open to anything that would help. Like I was one of those people. If it helps, I'm for it. And, I, as of now, have not seen anything convincing in that space. And I've looked, and I follow certain doctors and certain, like people in the medical field who have no agenda. They do not have anything to promote. They have no incentive other than just they're concerned with the direction this world is going. And I read the information that they curate. I hear what they have to say about it. and I have a point of view, and they come at it with no bias. They have objectively looked at everything from the vaccines to ivermectin to everything else. They have pointed out flaws in everything.
Yeah.
And that's just where I get my freaking analysis, dude.
Yeah.
You know, like I acknowledge my own limitations. You know, sometimes it's like, you know, and I'm not directing this at you, but like people say things like, oh, do your own research. I'm all about that if people would actually fucking do that. You know, listening to one voice and buying everything hook, line, and sinker, that is not doing your own research. That's literally the opposite of it. You know, and
I don't think that was directed at you or me, because I did a lot of research on it myself too.
No. I'm talking about a colloquialism we see online. Yeah. I wasn't directing that at you.
You know, there's a lot of people who just they would repeat stuff. Like when I was thrown off the stage for the event,
that really bothered you.
It really did at the time.
Are so bothered by that.
Well, because
I did something. You and I were in a weird place then too, weren't we? Yeah,
not yet. Not yet. Not at that time. Because
all right,
not yet. I think that first of all, we never really got into a weird place.
I messed up and I apologized.
No. But that time was even not that stuff. We did kind of have a separation where we kind of went our own ways. We weren't working together. We weren't collaborating with the same people anymore. You know, I definitely think that there was kind of like a form of kind of like tribalism on the left, where a lot of people, I mean, Max Blumenthal eventually came over to our side and whatnot. And, you know, obviously you had people that went on to the other side. There was kind of like a silent split. Yeah. I mean, we didn't have to have beef on the whole situation. But there were a lot of people who would just go along and they would repeat a lot of the stuff they would hear on TV. What, you don't believe in science? I'm like, I do believe in science. That's why I'm not taking this shot. Now, I might be wrong, but I'm looking at actual science. And I'm also looking at this from a corporation point of view, the people who are making this thing. That's my biggest issue. And I'm not going to trust them, right? And I saw literature out there that had said for coronaviruses, you know, that ivermectin, they knew it helps treat it. But the big thing I want to get out to as well, and I'm going to be doing a lot of this.
That is big pharma too, though. I mean, that's all big pharma.
Before we have these conversations, I just want to say I'm going to be
too far, but
because it's off patent, it's a little bit different. It is big pharma, but it's off patent. Anybody can make it. There's not a lot of money to be made at it. I could buy it for 15 cents a pill in Nicaragua when I go. You know what I'm saying? So it isn't necessarily. It's not like the patent holds, right? Where the coronavirus shots, the vaccines, they're patented right now. Somebody can't go out and make it.
You are against that too, because I will point out this. A lot of people from your perspective, when they would be critical of stuff like the vaccine, they ignored that part of it. They ignored the part of it. Well, they're also bogarting these recipes from other places. And I feel like if you want to call out the whole anatomy of big pharma, that needs to be part of the conversation too. And I found that to be, you know, not necessarily from you directly. I can't speak to like all your coverage or whatever, but I found that to be very selective. Yeah. And that was bothersome to me, especially since, again, you know, talking from the other side, you know, if you advocated for any type of COVID caution whatsoever because of the danger of this virus, you were branded, oh, you bow to the altar of Fauci and you like blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't like Fauci. That guy's one of the worst. You want to talk about bad communicators? Holy shit. If you asked that guy what he had for breakfast, he would say, well, what did the American people want me to have for breakfast? It was unreal. However, I don't think the fault is science, medicine. I think the fault is capitalism. And that's where, and even people on the left deviated from that view, at least in the United States. Not as much in other places, but in the United States, there was this weird freaking rift, dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there were. First of all, I want to say that I'm going to be having a lot more conversations called COVID from the left, having conversations with leftists out there who didn't necessarily jive on what's going on and having these conversations and talking about these things. And this is a conversation if we got deep into, we'll be here for 3 hours and I'll miss your movie and I can't have that. I got steak
you're watching my movie tonight, dude.
I'm going to say right now that I'm going to invite you, open the door to having you come on and having a conversation about this. And
I would love that.
Compartmentalize and let's talk about these things. So I have a lot of things to say. But here's here's how COVID changed me more than anything. how do I look to you today as far as my appearance goes compared to when I lived with you?
Yeah, this is bullshit. You're setting me up to roast you. And,
I'm not setting.
I know what you're doing. I'm not
Aside from
going to
wearing
fight
the
it.
glasses
You
to
look
look
very
cool.
handsome. You look very handsome.
But I did
love
lose some
every
weight.
fashion choice you're making.
Okay. I've lost some weight, right?
Yeah, you have.
Here's the thing. What I noticed more about COVID is that whether you're on the right, whether you're on the left, whether you believed in the shot, didn't believe in the shot, believed in ivermectin, didn't believe in that, whatever the case may be, is that we had some form of individual responsibility we had to take within ourselves to be as healthy as we possibly can. Sure. We had to stop eating because a lot of the comorbidities of the situations, a lot of the people who died were overweight and all that situation. So no matter what, I said to me, the way that COVID changed me as a person is that I'm going to take care of myself better moving forward, because that's what's going to help me stay alive more than anything, right? I mean, and we all know the guy who's in the best shape ever can die of a heart attack tomorrow. We don't know how, whatever, and then I am a little annoyed, Ron, because it is kind of crazy that when people automatically say that person died at a young age because of the COVID shot. I do understand a lot of the times when the people have that the overcompensation because they can't, the overcompensation because they can't even have the conversation about it because there's an entity on the left that says, oh, you can't even say that. How could you say that? Well, let's have that conversation. Let's look at, people are still not talking on both sides. And the capitalist part that bothers me is that they're still advertising for that vaccine on a regular basis. And yet they aren't talking about the negatives.
People aren't getting it. I mean, I think until they come up with something that truly prevents transmission, which will be hard to do because of the way a virus works. I mean, that's another thing that's a source of frustration, dude. I'm not a fucking scientist. Neither are you. But I remember when they taught us how a freaking virus works. And a lot of this stuff can just be answered with the way a virus works. When you get a shot, but yet, a virus doesn't have a brain. It can't be like, here's a shot, I'm going to go around it. It can't do that. What a virus can do is when it has a reasonable host, when it has a host it can work with, it will just mutate purely by chance. This virus, the COVID-19 virus, mutates really freaking fast, which is pretty freaking wild, dude. And it's gnarly and it's dangerous. Yeah. And when a virus mutates that fast, one, it's very hard to ever vaccinate it away. You have to get rid of it through a combination of means. And two, it can cause some lasting frickin' damage. So, I mean, for every study you can point to, there's tons of studies out there that like this COVID-19 caused this person heart damage that was permanent, that led to their death. There are perfectly healthy people being debilitated by long COVID. I mean, I'm sure you know somebody with long COVID. I know some people with long COVID. It's freaking frightening to see what they're going through now.
But a lot of people would argue, though, and I don't mean to cut you off, but a lot of people would argue that the heart issues are due to the vaccine itself. And when you do look at a lot of Pfizer's data and information on it, it's quite scary. And we both know, and I don't want to get too deep into this because I want to have you on my show to talk about these things. Yeah. We both know that to approve a vaccine, it normally takes 10 to 12 years. This was done in lightning speed, right? There's no long-term studies on this because it was immediate for the reasons. I know we're moving at the speed of COVID. But the one thing I did know more than anything is that people were pushing us to take this, even if we had initially got the transmitted disease of COVID and then built up natural antibodies. And they were saying, no, you still have to do that. And that's something, even I'm not a scientist and I think I got a C- in health. Should have had a D+ that bad, right? In school, I only had to take one semester of it. But I even knew that, natural immunity is better than vaccine-induced immunity. I mean, the vaccine-induced immunity is taking something that was created in a lab to get a defense response from it so that if you do get the virus, it then fights it. So it's an unnatural way of doing things if you look at it like that. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know this conversation.
No, I understand that.
Things, so.
Yeah, no. I had so many questions for you that you were just able to get out of. It's fucking bullshit. But no, just kidding. I'll
stay as long as you want. We can do speed round. Remember?
No, it's just when I have guests like this, and when I mean like guests in the political space, it usually just turns into like a discussion, which is fine. I don't hate it, but it's like these interviews are one and done. So I want to get I want to, but it's okay because
Ron,
this is
I
fun.
intend to collaborate with you more, have you on my show. I think we should
But I can't. You will never do 1,000 again. You can't because it's 1,000.
No, not this show. You can come on my show.
Right.
So we'll
so I'm
still
saying
be together.
I don't get to interview you again. So I gotta, but that's okay.
So this is the Ron formula. Stick to the formula. Never waver. I get it, buddy. I know.
Yeah.
When you're committed to something,
it's a theme. I gotta stick to the theme. When I decided to do the show, I'm like, I gotta do it. But I understand where you're coming from, and I understand those concerns. But again, it just keeps coming back to what this virus does to people, how fast it mutates, the whole natural immunity thing. I mean, again, man, it mutates so fast that it's like you get people that they're getting this thing 4 and 5 times a year. That's not freaking normal. That's not freaking normal.
Where do you think the COVID-19 came from?
I honestly do not think we will ever know for sure. I don't think we'll ever know.
You don't lean in a way? You don't lean towards one of the...
At this point, not really. I mean, I've
you think
leaned
it's possible it was created as a bioweapon?
Yeah, I think it's possible. Of course I think it's possible. I think it's possible it was created in a lab for whatever reason. Yeah. I mean, maybe it was like to study some kind of response. Maybe it was, I think, who knows? I don't think anyone denies that possibility at this point. Well, some people do, but I mean, even Fauci said that it was, So
they said after they it's possible. That's No,
he said it at a convenient time. I take your point there. Absolutely. But I do not think we'll ever know for sure at this point, because I think that, like there's too much, there's definitely some evidence out there that points to it was of natural origin, but there's definitely some reasonable amounts of doubt, very much so. But I think at this point they're going to be able to, if there is something to cover up, they've had enough time. So I don't think we'll ever be able to definitively answer that question. And for the record, I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah,
I hope I'm wrong. I hope we find out, but I don't think we'll ever know for sure. So, and that's honestly as definitive as I can get on it, because that's my honest answer. I don't think we'll ever know for sure. It's just like, it's the same. Ask me about Kurt Cobain. I have the same answer for that one. I don't think we'll ever know for sure.
The main thing is that I think that I don't think like you've been guilty of this, but the fracture or the split or where people are and their opinions on COVID and their opinions on Kyle Rittenhouse. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people in those groups from both sides that wanted to cancel each other. And I think there's a lot of people like me and you would have been like, okay, he's wrong about that, or I disagree with him at that. But there are many things we can still align on. There are many things we can work on together. And if we were running the show, I think a lot of us in this space would still be talking to each other. I mean, with the business of first of all, 95% of people in the political world are full of shit anyways, right? You know what I'm saying? So many goddamn egos. Oh my God. It's like, you know what I'm saying? So there's that whole aspect that a lot of people don't know. They don't understand what goes on behind the scenes. They don't understand like what drives these people and stuff. So they're full of shit, but there still would have been, I think, a lot more opportunity for people to bond together if there wasn't the cancel culture creatures out there that are out there by design to make sure that we're...
I think a lot of it is now, well, especially since now you can be completely anonymous on Twitter or wherever else. You can be completely anonymous. So, I mean, hell yeah, it's easier for them to do it than ever before. They've been doing it. And I think that's what breeds a lot of the paranoia on the left. Like, look, it's a cliche, but it's freaking true. The right looks for converts. The left looks for traitors. And I've been guilty of this before. I'm sure I think we all are. But there is a systemic reason for that. And it's because the left's been infiltrated since at least the freaking 30s. Yeah. So, and they've been, down the street, I can show you where Joe Hill used to work before he went to Utah and got shot, So there's a little bit of justification with some of this paranoia. However, all too often it's taken to a very counterproductive place, which I think is kind of loosely related to what we're talking about here. So Well, what do you think the fix is for all that? As we're wrapping up here, because you have a movie to watch, what do you think the fix is for all that?
Are the Pens playing tonight, by the way? Because I know they're like a point ahead. They got an overtime loss the other day and got 1 point ahead of the Islanders. Now Columbus won, and it's going to come down to the edge for the Penguins and the
It's the two
Islanders.
spot, though. It's the 2 spot, though. So aren't they both?
Oh, they're one. It's the 2 spot of the but there's 4 teams that get 3 spots and then the 2 wild cards.
Yeah,
pretty much out of the 6 teams that are fighting for those, there's 5 teams fighting for 4 spots. If you look at Carolina and say they got it locked up already because they got such a lead, but there's 5 teams going for those 4 spots, and one of those teams are not going to make it. It could be the Penguins, it could be the Islanders, it could be the Columbus Blue Jackets, it could be who the other 2 teams. I don't know.
My guess, right? And now I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to make sure I drop this soon so it doesn't become like not topical. But my guess is both the Pens and Islanders make it this year. That's my guess. That's my guess. And you know what, man? I was a little PO'd watching the Cup because I was kind of rooting for Canada just because, I don't like anything that makes Kash Patel happy. And I think that if Sidney Crosby would have been in that game, Canada would have won. I actually tweeted, I was just like, man, Sidney Crosby won the Cup for Canada in 2009, and he won it for the U.S. in 2026, which was meant as it's a tainted win U.S. and a pro Crosby tweet. A bunch of Canadians got mad at me, though. They didn't realize that was what it was. I was like, clearly you don't follow me because I'm a Pens guy.
It's funny because we were talking about that silent split that we really never we had like one thing we talked about, whatever it was, like through Texas, we worked it out. But one of the times I was upset with you is when the Islanders knocked the Pens out and you didn't call me, and I was like, what a jerk off, man. He's not going to call me and congratulate me.
We had the Pens shortly after.
No, because I told you, I'm like, why didn't you call me sooner, man? The Islanders knocked the Pens out like a month ago, and I'm only hearing from you now. I would have called you right away and said congratulations.
That's fair.
Let the audience know that.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And it wasn't, it was just sort of like, I don't know, you weren't in town, you were off. Like, I didn't even know like what your MMO was at that point. It wasn't like any, we were cool. Like, it's not like we weren't cool or anything. It's
you knew I was an Islanders fan, so
I did know that. I did know that. And WhatsApp knows no borders. So yeah, I have no excuse. You've
already weaseled your way out of the
I should have reached out
story, the jogging suit story, and stuff like that.
You didn't dispute my story. You were laughing really hard. Of course, I
withheld information. Yeah, you were laughing at me as you were saying it, and then you laughed hysterically. So. But anyways, by the way, just to answer the question so we can get to my steak tartare in the movie I got to watch tonight, the first part of solving this problem is recognizing the problem, right? Recognizing what it is. And I do believe the voices that are amplified on the left and the right are the synthetic voices, right? Okay. I think the majority of people who are conservative in this country don't like what's going on with the right. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the left. I think there's a lot of us out there who are kind of like, nope, we're not all into this Democratic Party bullshit. And we know they're pro-war. They're pro-Zionist. They can't avoid that stuff. I mean, they're not for freedom of speech. We saw what they did with Julian Assange. I mean, it's easy for me to criticize the left, but I come from there. But one of the solutions is to have shows like this, right? Me and you, right, where we differ from each other, to have these conversations, because a lot of times these conversations are not had. And just like my last caller, one of the things my last caller said on the WBAI show this Wednesday is he almost pointed out that I'm part of the problem. You know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't recognize the Democrats as the lesser of two evils and not mitigating damage so a Nazi king-like guy like Trump would get in. Right, and
he's not try to argue. He's a Nazi, but yes, continue.
Yeah, he is a Nazi, right? He is
nice. I got it on record.
The guy is off. Whatever the case. I mean, they're all Nazis, really, in some form of another. They all are Nazis. I look at Joe Biden. Joe Biden bankrolls the whole Gaza war in the beginning right now. You know what I'm saying? Donald Trump came into this.
This is so Gabriel Rockhill lays out the fascists of fascism very, very well. Like because he's, an academic who really studies that shit. And he kind of breaks down like the different pillars. And Joe Biden is sort of the business end of it. And so is Donald Trump, and so is Bush, and so is basically everybody. But now what we have is like the water is boiling a bit more, and we're seeing just the barbaric out in the streets version of that via things like ICE and shit like that. So it's like, yeah, it's the multiple pillars. But anyway, continue. We got to get to solutions. You have work to do.
Yeah, the solutions are us talking together, and I hear you, and that's another discussion too as well. But once again, it's not the lesser of two evils; it's both evils, and both of these sides have protected the Epstein class. Yep. Both of these sides have suppressed our voices and censored our channels. And this too. You've been fighting for internet freedoms for quite some time. A lot of things that happened under Joe Biden, were just as bad, if not worse, in certain situations. And really, the true definition of fascism, right, is the merger of corporations and state.
Right.
They're funded. Right. I get the pillars and whatnot. Right. You may make the argument that the Trump regime and the conservatives are a little bit more racist, or a lot more racist. But there are bombs that are dropping on, what Obama did and expanding AFRICOM. He built the drones, and Donald Trump just armed them. But it always seems like it's one continuation after the other. Everything gets worse. And if you think that things are really, really bad, they might loosen up somewhat. But there'll be other areas in which a Gavin Newsom will advance the security state, the foreign policy apparatus. Imperialism's not going away. So I think we can't play that game of the lesser of two evils. And that a lot of the people I know that were disconnected from the left, right, they would play the Democrats as the lesser of two evils. I just refuse to play that. And I think we have to recognize that this system as a whole, they all hate us. They all want us dead. They don't care about us. So even though you might get some relief in some other areas, you're not going to get relief in others. And it's like a continuation. So we have to reject the two-party system, have hard conversations, and, just go at it. Find ways that we can build bridges. And I do believe there's enough people on the periphery. If we ignore those hardcore MAGA voices that are being elevated, right, while other voices are being silenced on the right, same thing happens on the left. Some voices are elevated and some are just kind of left down in the shadows. I think there's more of us down in those shadows and on the periphery that we can find some common ground and come together and eventually find a way out of this thing. I mean, I'm being optimistic. I don't see it happening, but that's what I hoped would happen, and that's why I was encouraged to come on with you today.
Right on, man. Well, in closing, where can people go to learn more about you, disinvite you from an event, whatever they're going to do? Plug away.
Well, when you come see me, I'll be wearing my two-piece jogging outfit.
Yes, you got to do a stand-up set in the jogging outfit.
So, I got some new Puma outfits I want to show you. I got the white with the orange and the velour sneakers. So that's my favorite one. So I'll be wearing that. And I wear these orange sunglasses with the whole outfit. It goes great. But the Convo Couch, we changed names to the Truth Wire. We are trying to get our monetization back. We've still been demonetized for close to 5 years right now on that channel. It's really hard when you get kneecapped. But we do the Truth Wire Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. You can always go to @YoPasta on my Twitter, which is a link tree to get to some of my other shows. I do a WBAI call-in show every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern, where you can call in and tell me what you got to hear, what you want to say. And I go on the show The Homeless Left with Matt Weinglass on either Tuesdays and Thursdays. So starting spot is just go to @YoPasta at Twitter, hit to the link tree. It will lead you where you got to go. Truth Wire on YouTube. And that's just about it, buddy.
Pasta, thanks for doing this.
No doubt, man. Let's continue the COVID conversation and get into a little Kyle Rittenhouse on my show when you get a chance.
Anytime. And then you have to say something else because the person has to say the last word. But yes, let's do that.
Gotcha. I just want to say to everybody out there, if you feel like wearing a two-piece jogging suit, wear it. Don't get disencouraged by the people around you. If you like it and you think it keeps you nice and warm and looking cool, then wear that two-piece jogging suit.
That was Craig Pasta Jardula. It's hard to say all those names at once. Going from Pasta to Jardula, it's a bit of a mouthful there. It's a little tough. That was an interesting conversation. I mean, maybe, I don't know. Hopefully, we will all be able to find some common ground again, the way we did in 2016. I don't know. I can't give up on that. I really can't, because there was a certain hope in the air during those times, and even after, like going into 2017, there was a certain hope in the air that true change was possible in the United States, and I refuse to let go of that. And I think it's kind of, I gotta say, I think it is an interesting testament and hopefully a good example that despite our differences, Pasta and I are able to remain friends and respect each other enough to hear each other out even when we disagree. And and more importantly, we were able to stay friends. Music for the 1000 podcast is provided by Andrew Sexton. Be sure to check out his podcast, the Baywatching Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Please do leave us a 5-star review, spread the word, share this show, share this podcast. You know how it goes. And if you want to support what we do on the sustainability end, patreon.com/romplacone. For Give What You Can level, you get all kinds of cool perks. We do a Zoom hangout once a month. You get insider info on upcoming film and events. It's a really cool community. Patreon.com/romplacone. It's a Give What You Can level. Even $1 a month goes a long way. All right, 133. That is 133 of these interviews. And man, we're almost at another half decade. We're almost at that 50 mark. Not quite, but we're closer to 50 than to the 100 mark, which is wild because I feel like we just crossed 100 like yesterday. This goes fast. You really feel your mortality with this show. Got to tell you. Catch you next week. Peace. Hey guys, Ron Placone here. Take your own 1,000 challenge. No, you don't need to interview 1,000 people, although if you want to do that, go for it. Your 1,000 challenge can be whatever you want. Maybe you want to call a friend out of the blue once a week. Maybe you want to read a book every month. Maybe you want to start a different garden every season. I guess that might be dependent on where you live. Look, the point of the challenge is taking on an endeavor that enriches your life in some way, and it can be measured. And then, of course, you do it regularly. That's what 1,000 is doing for me and hopefully for you too. The main reason for this podcast and every podcast I've ever done is to build community. So take your own challenge. Then join our Facebook group. It's called 1,000 What's Your Challenge? ? That's 1,000 What's Your Challenge ? And post about what your 1,000 challenge is and the progress you're making. All I ask is that people be encouraging of each other's challenges. This is personal and vulnerable, so be cool. There's enough negativity on social media. We don't need to add to it. For those of you who aren't on Facebook, hopefully in the future we'll be expanding to places like Discord, Reddit, but for now, we're starting on Facebook. And again, that Facebook group is called 1,000 What's Your Challenge? See you there.